Hi, this is T. Harv Eker, author of the New York Times #1 best-selling book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite programs, The Secrets of Inner Power, how to master your mind, build your character, and succeed no matter what. Now, one of the most popular questions I get from students all around the world is, why are some people more successful than others? And that's a good question, right? And here's my answer. The only, what's the word? The only, and I mean only difference between successful and unsuccessful people is the way they think and the way they act. Here's the thing. Successful people, they're still people. They still feel fear. They still have doubts. They still get stressed and they still have worries. But the big difference between the two is that successful people do not, I repeat, do not let any of those feelings stop them or prevent them from getting what they want. They are masters. They are masters at overcoming obstacles and doing whatever it takes to get the results that they're after. And that's why I created the Secrets of Inner Power program, to offer strategies and techniques to overcome obstacles, overcome fears, overcome doubts, and overcome worries, so that you become a master. What's that word? Master at taking action in spite of anything that tries to get in your way. After you take this program, problems just will not faze you anymore. When you encounter a problem or an obstacle, you will be able to conquer it immediately. No waiting, no hesitation, just complete confidence and uninterrupted action towards any goal, good or good. Can you see how this skill could help you? I know for many of my students, it's completely changed their life.
How many of you would like to have a lot more inner power in your life? And how many of you have a lot more inner peace in your life? And how many could stand to have a heck of a lot of fun? You've come to the what? Right place. For those of you who don't know me, my name is T. Harv Eker. First thing I want to do is I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your time, and I want to thank you for your courage. Anytime I do any seminars, I have 2 rules. How many rules? 2. The first one you know is what? Don't believe a word I say. Why would I suggest that? That's right. Whose experience can I come from? Just my experience. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make it true, and it doesn't make it false. It just makes it my experience. All I can let you know, however, is that the principles you're going to learn totally transform my life, and I believe will transform your life too. They are very powerful. What's the word? Powerful principles. Do they work in the real world? Well, all I can tell you is my experience. When I live these principles, my life is amazing. When I don't and I forget, I notice my life going downhill quickly. That's all I can tell you. Fair enough? What's important here is what happens for who? For what happens to you. So how many of you be willing to be open and try the material and principles out in your life? Yes? And whatever works for you, you keep on what? Doing, and whatever doesn't work, you're welcome to what? Raise your hand if you're able to be open. Okay, anybody not? We'll really see here. Okay, now, as for rule number 2, how many like to learn faster? How many like to remember more of what you learn? Research shows the key is that is what? Who can tell me? Yes, involvement, absolutely. There's a saying that says this: what I hear, I tend to forget. What I see, I tend to remember. But what I do, I understand. Yes or yes? Very good. How many of you are willing to play at 100%? Okay, anybody not? Say a ho. Ready? A ho. Now, once again, I want to remind you of the 3 most dangerous words in the English language. What are they? Very good. I know that. Now, how do you know if you know something? That's right. If you live it, you know it. If you don't live it, then you heard about it, you read about it, you sure can talk about it, but you don't obviously know it. Does that make sense? So, When your mind says, I know that, what's it trying to do? Protect you from what? From change, that's right. It wants to keep you in your what? In your comfort zone. Why? Because it's safe there. Now, here's the problem with the comfort zone, in case you haven't recognized this so far. The problem with the comfort zone is this. It's not necessarily good. It's just familiar. You understand? It's just familiar. And raise your hand if you've ever heard this saying. See, to the mind, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. True or true? So it doesn't mean your life is going fantastic just because your mind tries to keep you the same. It just means it's familiar, and that's what it likes. All right. So when you hear your mind, or if you hear your mind say, I know that, simply use the 4 magic words, what are what? Thank you for sharing, and pay even closer attention. How many people are willing to do that? Say aho. Ready? Aho. Anybody not? Great. Okay. So let's get the foundation of the program together here. The definition of the warrior that we use is this definition. Read it with me, please. One who conquers... One more time, twice as loud. So what does that mean, to conquer yourself? How can you conquer you? That connotates that there's 2 of you. So how is this possible? Well, the fact is that there is 2 of us, or at least so it seems. We have what we're going to call one part of us known as our true self. What's it called, please? True self. And another part of us that we're going to be knowing as our, what is it? False self. Another word for it is conditioned mind. What is it? Conditioned mind. Thank you. Now, where do most people base their lives? In their true self or their false self? In their false self, their conditioned mind. Where does the enlightened warrior live? True self. And one of the most important things you can ever learn is the difference between the 2. Your true self is your original self. What self? It's who you came into the world as. Your false self, or your conditioned mind, listen closely, is who you learned to be. Who you what? So basically, we come into the world as this empty cup. An empty cup. And as a baby, we come in there and we're basically open and we're accepting and we're loving and we're spontaneous and we're very peaceful. But then we begin the process of learning how to live and fit into the world. Yes? So we learn all these wonderful things. We learn these things and these things and these things and these things. And we learn this and don't do this and don't do this and don't do this, and that can hurt you, and be careful of that. Yes or yes? We learn all this stuff here. We get filled up with what? Information. What's the word? Now, we learn in several ways. The first one, of course, is based on our experience. And actually, this starts in the very first few days of our lives. You know, we're feeling hungry, we're a little uncomfortable, and we're not sure what to do. So we start with goo goo, goo goo. Not much happens. Then we start getting a little more upset. Not much is going on. Finally, it's ah! And all of a sudden, we get all the attention we can possibly handle. We get picked up, we get loved, we get fed, we get everything. And then we go, wow, that worked. And we write that down in our operations manual of life. It says, when I want attention, the louder I scream, the faster they come. Very good thing to notice, and we file it. Yes or yes? How many people know people who are still using the same strategy, even though they are 5 feet taller and 30 or 40 years older? Yes? Now, our operations manual becomes our blueprint. Our what? For how to think and behave and basically survive in the world. And together, these ways of being that we filed are called our personality. What's it called? Or our ego self, or our conditioned mind, false self. Now, raise your hand if you've ever heard anybody say about their personality. Say, well, this is just my personality. This is just the way I am. Raise your hand. Okay? Let me say, that is caca. That is untrue. That is not the way you are. That is the way you learned to be in order to survive in the world based on the people that domesticated you. Do you understand that? It's a very simple thing. You are not your personality. That excuse doesn't wash anymore. This is just the way I am. No, all that is stuff in here. Your personality is nothing more than an egoic idea you made up as to who you're supposed to be to survive in the world. Do you understand? And fit in. Now, there's 4. How many? I can't hear it. How many? Thank you. 4 critical things you need to remember. Number 1, that this way of being or personality was primarily created by you in order to what? Survive, not thrive. Big difference. Number 2, this way of thinking and being is based on the assumptions of a very young child. Now, in addition to what we learn from our own experience, we also get conditioned with all the do's and don'ts and rules that other people gave us. Who are some of the people who gave us some of these do's, don'ts, and rules? Who are they? Parents. Who else? Teachers, school. Who else? Church, religious leaders. Who else? Friends, media. Absolutely. Good. Absolutely. Now, the most important thing, however, to remember, listen closely here, this could change your life, is that this programming or information and the personality that you created because of it is not the real you. It's not who you are. It's only a recording, a what? A recording of the information you learned as a child, stored now on tape. And now that tape, that what? Plays unconsciously, automatically, and habitually. And you know that tape as the little voice in your head. So what you're getting, that little voice in your head, is what? Who you are? No. All you're getting is the recording of all of this. And that's what you're hearing. But you bought it. You thought it was you speaking, and it's not. So, you are not the tape. No. You are the tape recorder, the tape player, the player of the tape. Understand? You are not the program, the programming. You are the hardware, the computer that plays different programs. Got it? You are not what's in the glass. You are the glass. You are what's holding what's in the glass. This is very important to recognize. In the same way that you're not your hand, you're not your mind. Your mind is a part of you, but you are much bigger and greater than just your mind. You are the container, the vessel that holds what's in your mind. And the key to true power and freedom is to be able to disidentify, what's the word? With your mind. To be able to distinguish between yourself and your mind. To be able to separate and get some space from it. So you can see your mind and what we call witness it from an observer position, watching it do its thing. When you can separate, when you can disassociate from being the voice, then for the first time you can actually listen and watch the voice do what it normally does without it stopping you. Does that make any sense at all? All right. Once you realize you're not your mind, then for the first time you have true choice. True what? In the present moment, instead of being run based on automatic programming from the past. That's what we call consciousness. What's it called? Did you understand what I just said? Because if you understand this, your whole life can be different. Okay. Once you realize you're not your mind, you can watch your thoughts and feelings bubble up, but you don't have to believe them, and you don't have to act or not act based on them. They're just bubbles of recorded information. That's all they are, that we don't now have to buy into. Most people don't know this, and they make the big mistake of believing that their conditioning or who they learned to be, their personality is who they are. And so their lives are run by the conditioned mind or the ego self. Their lives are run by the voice in their head. Raise your hand if you know people whose lives are run by the voice in their head. Anybody not have their hand here? I want to read you a story. It's a story about a king who everybody loved. He was kind and generous and renowned for his wisdom. One day, tragedy struck the country. The water supply was polluted, and every single person went insane. Only the king, who had his own private spring, was spared. Soon the crazy people began talking about how strangely the king was acting and how he'd become mean and greedy and stupid. They said he'd gone nuts. Eventually, the king was the most hated man in the country. He became lonely because nobody came to visit him anymore, and he used to be very, very popular and friendly with everyone, but nobody came anymore. So he decided to come down from his castle and visit the town. It was very hot outside, and so he took a cool drink from the town's fountain. That night, the country had a huge celebration because their beloved king had finally come back to normal. So again, even though the way we are is normal, it doesn't mean it's our natural or true self. Do you understand what I'm saying? It just means this is the conditioned way what we live in. And we're good at it because everybody else has the same challenge. Got it? So why isn't this obvious to all of us? Why? It's because we're like a fish in water. And the fish doesn't know it's in water until it's what? Out of the water. And we can't know we're in our conditioned self, we're in our false self, until we what? Come out of our false self and observe it. Research shows we actually have two parts to our brain. How many? I can't hear you. One part is called the medulla. And the medulla is known as the lower brain. It's also the oldest part of the brain. It's also known as the reptilian brain. What's it called, please? The reptilian brain. You can understand why. So let's say, for example, here is, well, that's a pretty good person. Wow. You're going, is that what it is? All right. And let's suppose this is this person's brain. Yes, on drugs. Okay. So here's the thing. This part of the brain, the medulla, sits right here at the very base of the skull on the top of the spine. It's right there. Go ahead and touch your medulla. Very good. All right. Now, its primary function of this part of the brain is one function and one function only. Remember, it's reptilian. What's its job? Survival. That's all it knows. Survival. It's instinctive. It's survival. Fight or flight is all it knows. And again, it sits at the base of the spine. And do you want to know what its job is? Its job, believe it or not, is to separate, what's the word? Separate. and direct the flow of information to all of the rest of the brain. Isn't that good to know? Its job is to separate the information and direct the flow to the rest of the brain. In short, our filter, our what? Of the world is an information director who is primarily based in survival and therefore fear. You want to know why 90% of your life is based in some form of anxiety and fear almost all the time? Yes or no? Isn't it true? It's almost all the time, isn't it? You almost always have this little sense of something going on, yes? Even you walked in here, you're like a little nervous. You're going to check your seat out. I don't know if I want to be at the end. Who's beside me? You know, I think I'm a little crowded here. Man, fear after fear after fear. Yes or yes? Constant. Watch yourself. It's unbelievable how fearful we live. And the reason now you know, because every bit of information that's coming in is coming in through this filter whose job it is to scour everything and search for what problems could be there. Every little bit of information goes through this process first. How many people recognize that they live in fear? Yeah. If you don't recognize it, that's okay. I want you to start watching yourself now. Watching what the voice is saying. If you start listening to that voice, you'll notice very seldom does it have anything really good to say. True or true? Very seldom. Okay. Now you know why. See, no wonder most of us are still searching for inner peace, inner power, love, joy, meaning in our life. Unfortunately, the controlling part of our brain isn't set up for that. It's not its function. The conditioned mind is first and foremost a survival mechanism. What kind of mechanism? And yet most of us are constantly trying to use this mind to figure out how to be happy. So, again, it's not a job. You're using the wrong tool. You're using an accountant to do your legal work. Completely different worlds. The issue, as Einstein put it, is you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. So what's the answer? Well, you can start by reconditioning your mind. You can slowly record over the old tape with new, much more supportive messages. Or you can bypass the entire fear-based, ego-based system altogether and learn to live in your higher and true self. So, where do you find your true self? Here's good news. You don't have to go anywhere to find your true self. In fact, you're already there. You don't actually have to do anything. In fact, you actually have to undo something. Your true self is always with you, and you find it as soon as we turn down the noise, the incessant chatter of the conditioned mind. And you know what? You just got the ultimate secret of enlightenment. It's the secret some people have taken 40 years in a cave to discover. That the most direct way to connect with your true self is to do this. What is it, please? Quiet the mind. The most direct way, the fastest way, is not to try and bring out your true self. You can't bring out something that's there. It's there. It's who you are. The most direct way is to do what? Quiet the chatter of the mind. And when you quiet the chatter of your mind, what's going to happen? Exactly. What's left is your true and higher self. When you quiet the mind, you'll naturally also be peaceful and powerful and joyful and wise. Why is that? Because when we are in our true self, We are directly connected with the highest power in the universe, the intelligence of nature, the intelligence that created the world, that which animates us. You can, many names. Some people call it higher consciousness. Some people call it universal intelligence. Some people call it God. Some people call it the force. Some people call it our higher power. Natives used to call it the Great Spirit. Let me ask you a question. Suppose you went to the very coast of California here, and you scooped up a cup of ocean water. What kind of water? Thank you. And you brought it to the middle of the country, say Nebraska. What kind of water would that still be in Nebraska? Still be ocean water. And in the same way, each of us is still a small cup of the Great Spirit. Do you understand? And our connection is through our true self. Now, I'm going to draw something as an analogy. Obviously, it doesn't look like this. So, here is what we're going to call Great Spirit. Here is what we're going to call ourselves. And here is what we're going to recognize as our true self. Okay? It's just a representation. Got it? Now notice our true self is connected to something. What is it? The Great Spirit, the highest intelligence in the universe. Okay? That which creates us. Now, the problem here, so our connection to the highest self is through our highest self. Does that make any sense at all? Yes, yes. Okay, good. Now, the problem is our connection to our true self becomes blocked by the constant activity of the conditioned mind. So here is our normal connection, but it becomes blocked by the activity. And so our goal, therefore, has to be to pierce the veil, of the conditioned mind. And when we pierce the veil of the conditioned mind, not only do you find your true self, but you automatically tap in to the highest intelligence in the universe. So I'm going to say this again. Raise your hand if you wouldn't mind tapping in to the highest intelligence in the universe, okay? Can you figure out how to do that? No. Because as soon as you begin to figure anything, what have you done? You have strengthened the veil that precludes you and prevents you from tapping in, from being connected. You understand? It's exactly the what? Opposite. When you can let your mind be quiet, when you can quiet the chatter, then and only then can you pierce that veil. And when you do, not only are you connected to your true self, but automatically to the highest power in the universe. That's why you're immediately powerful, peaceful, joyous, and wise. Does this make any sense? Yes or yes? Okay. My Zen teacher said that if what you were looking for was where you've been looking, chances are you'd have already found it by now. Let me say this right now. What you've been looking for is your true self. And how to access it and live from there is what the training is all about. How many are excited? Okay, good. Now, how many of you believe that you have the genes of your parents inside of you? Yes? How many of you believe that you have the genes of your grandparents inside of you? Your great-grandparents inside of you? How far back do you have the genes? All the way. Warriors have been part of history since recorded time. The Roman gladiators, the Greek Spartans, the Mongolian warriors, the Japanese samurai, the Norsemen, the Vikings, the native warriors, and pioneers in every field. Therefore, if you go far enough back in your family tree, you know you have to have some of those warrior genes inside of you. Yes or yes? You have to. Meaning whether you like it or not, regardless of how many generations you are after, you are already inherently part warrior, yes or no? Yes. Therefore, the only question is whether you are utilizing your warrior energy or not in the moment. Do you understand? Give somebody a high five and say, you are a warrior. Nice job. What exactly is a warrior? You know that a warrior is not actually a specific person. It's an archetype. What is it? An archetype. And archetypes were used in mythology as models. What were they? They were models to help us better ourselves. Now, basically there are, in this circumstance, 4 archetypes. How many, please? So there is the warrior, yes? There is the wizard or the magician. There is the king, and there is the lover. Those are the 4 archetypes. And the warrior's way was the understanding that this archetype was the archetype of inner power. Inner what? I can't hear you. Inner what? And what is power? The definition of power is what? The ability to do or act. Say it with me. The ability to do or act. Power is the ability to act. One more time, twice as loud. Therefore, the warrior's way is the way of action. The way of what? Action. The way of what? Action. In the real world. In the real world. The way of action in the real world. That's the warrior's way. That's that archetype. I'm not saying it's the only way to live. But that archetype, that energy, is the energy of action now. Got it? And that's what we want to evoke in you. One of the precepts of this program is that there's a part of you that's already inherently strong and powerful. And the secret is to learn to access that most powerful part of you, your warrior energy, at will. So get it again. The secret here is for you to learn to access your warrior energy at will. Instead of floundering around, wondering if you've got it, and if you do, how to get it and how to access it when you need it, or when it's supportive for you to utilize it. It's a tool. What is it? Now you know what it is. It's an energy. What is it? Energy. So the warrior is an energy. It's a form of energy. Our job is to A, evoke it in you here, and B, help you practice and maintain it here in this place. Does that make sense? Now, if you can practice and maintain the warrior energy here, that will develop into a cellular response. And the best thing about the energy is if you've really got it, chances are good you won't have to use it very much. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like a martial artist who's like a 7th Dan black belt. Those are the ones who never fight. They don't have to, because everybody knows you don't mess with them. True or true? Raise your hand if you wouldn't mind being like that. That's why people mess with you, because they know they can. Do you understand? But when you are a warrior and they know that, you don't have to tell them. If you have to tell them you're a warrior, you might as well fart somewhere else. They'll know it. They say, don't mess with that person.